Welcome to the Veterans in Politics Talk Show. Join us every Wednesday night at 6 p.m. Pacific Time, live stream on Facebook.
Welcome to the Joint Veterans Endorsement Interviews for Non-Judicial Candidates. At the outset, we'd like to formally recognize and thank our sponsoring organizations for making today's event possible. Judge Mary Perry, Clark County District Court, Family Division, Department P. Christine Brewer, Clark County District Court, Family Division, Department S. Veterans in Politics International, Nevada Veterans Association. We'd also like to extend our sincere appreciation to our additional sponsors and community partners whose support helps ensure a professional, fair, and transparent endorsement process. We're honored to have you all with us here today. Before we begin the interviews, I'd like to go over the rules and the format. First, each panel member will introduce themselves by stating their name and the organization they represent. Then each of you will be given an opportunity to introduce yourselves. Please include the office you're running for and explain why you're seeking that position. Then we'll start the interview portion. Each panel member will ask you a question. Remember, this is an interview, not a debate, so please direct all your answers to the panel members and be cognizant of the camera since we do have a audience here. Excuse me. In the interest of fairness to all participants, time limits will be enforced. Each of you will be given 1 minute and 30 seconds to answer a question. When you have 30 seconds remaining, you'll be shown a yellow card. And when your time has expired, you'll be shown a blue card. You may finish your sentence, but then please be respectful of the time and conclude your statement at that point. After we finish that portion, then you'll be given an opportunity to give a closing statement. All right, with that, we'll start in the end with introductions.
Varlin Higby, past Lincoln County Commissioner.
Hi, my name is Jeffrey Lustig. I live in Las Vegas. I'm an attorney. I'm an Air Force veteran, and I am a former judge from Washington State. And I'm here today on behalf of Veterans in Politics. If you can't tell, I mean, look at this beautiful shirt.
And Tim Ross from Las Vegas. I representing Nevada Veterans Association.
TK Crabb, Veterans in Politics.
Martin Walker, Nevada Veterans Association. I'll start with you with your introduction, please.
Hello, my name is Tamicka Washington. I was born and raised here in Clark County in Las Vegas, Nevada. Went to Valley High School. Graduated from Valley High School. Got my bachelor's degree at the University of Phoenix, and I started my career 20 years ago in the Clark County Assessor's Office. When I started in the Assessor's Office, I started as a temporary employee, worked my way through several positions held, including customer service, where we handle veterans exemptions, disabled veterans exemptions, surviving spouse exemptions, and at one point in time, we had a senior rebate program. From leaving the customer service division, where I spent 11 years, I am now in the appraisal division, where we affect value changes and all of the values for the 867,000 parcels that we have here in Clark County. Also, I work on the personal property side of things as well, which is our businesses, our aircraft hangars, manufactured homes, things like that. So I am a very intricate part of the appraisal division because I also handle the Board of Equalization. So I do all of the changes for the Board of Equalization, as well as I train our new associates that are coming into the office that are some of the greatest group of ladies that I work with directly that are my support staff. So that's a little bit about me and where I'm at.
Good evening. Thank you for having me here. Thank you for Veterans in Politics and our veterans and the people that are serving. My name is Kevin Child. I've been here since 1975. I went to Bonanza High School, graduated Bonanza High School. My parents had the A&W root beer stands in town. I was a kid that ran them when I got out of school. Graduated that, and then went and stayed in entrepreneurialism. I've been in real estate for a broker for 25 years here in the state of Nevada. I love what I do. I was a school board trustee of the Clark County School District, where we had a $2.8 billion budget with 225,000 students. I helped turn it around from 50th ranked to 38th ranked when I left. Now they're back to 50th. We need business people in some of these positions in our government, and they have to know a budget. And it's not our money, it's hardworking taxpayer dollars. And again, it's a privilege to be in front of you guys here, and I'm here to answer any questions. Thank you.
Marlon Higby, past Lincoln County Commissioner. My question is, coming from a commissioner's standpoint, you get a shortfall in revenues several years in a row, and they're putting pressure on your office to dig up money from somewhere. Where would you go look, and how do you feel like waivers for veterans and the different waivers and exemptions that take place? Talk about that.
So if I'm understanding you correctly, you're asking, would we take away those exemptions? Are you
Well, how would you deal with the shortfalls? Would you use exemptions? Where are you going to go at audit to see if you've missed something? I guess should be.
So
the better
there are
question.
so many places that things are being missed currently. Right now, because of during the COVID era of things, a lot of the personal property business taxes weren't being collected on. We had a changeover in staff. So I would start there. I would start to figure out how we can work with our business owners to get them back on track tax-wise. We do have some of those, like I said, that are delinquent. So and that's part of the reason why I wanted to run, because I want our business owners to understand what they're paying for and why they're paying for them. So in order for people to feel comfortable with paying their tax dollars, they have to understand why. I don't like to give away my money and don't know where it's going. I have a father who owns a restaurant, and if it wasn't for me being where I am now and being able to explain to him, okay, Dad, I understand you bought this, got this stove and you've paid for it, but we have to still contribute to our tax system here. So that's where I would start. I would start to talk to business owners so that way we can get them back on track, and that would be revenue drawn.
So real quick is, as a business person, you have to kind of look at your budgets. And of course, you're a county commissioner and you have legislative people. If we have a shortfall, we need to start meeting with our legislators. So bottom line is, if we're having that shortfall, yes, we need to audit every facet of our department, just like I asked for a forensic audit under the Clark County School District. Again, is there missed opportunities in a lot of times in government? Absolutely. And I'll be that striving force to make sure that those budgets are right, and then that those dollars that are accountable that we can use for our government.
Good evening. Thank you for being here. Again, my name is Jeffrey Lustig, and I'm with Veterans in Politics tonight. I'm here to ask you this question, and I think you did address some of this in your opening statements, but I want to give you a chance to highlight your experience. And I want to begin by stating that, as we know, the Clark County Assessor's Office is a large technical agency with a million-dollar budget. It has a substantial staff and a huge responsibility for literally hundreds of thousands of parcels and business accounts and things that we need valuation records and documentation on. What, in your experience as a professional person in your field, gives you the qualifications to manage such an operation on this scale? And how would you ensure that the office has the staffing, training, and technology and leadership to make this process more user-friendly for the taxpayers and citizens of Clark County?
Because the assessor's office is an administrative position within the county, it takes institutional knowledge to run our office. Our office is based on NRS statutes, NAC statutes. So in order to run our office, you have to know how to, you have to understand the inner workings of our office. I understand that there's a thought process as to being a business person, but in our office, because we are statute driven and because of our technology, you have to know how to work those things in order to be able to train our staff. You have to understand the CAMA systems that we use and our Mentum systems that we use for billing. Those are things that our leaders have to know. Right now, Brianna Johnson, with her leaving our office, It's going to take a lot of institutional knowledge away from the office. But because she has poured into myself and as well as our staff, I am well equipped to be able to lead my staff, the staff that's there. My coworkers rely heavily on me now to provide them knowledge when it comes to statute, things that they can and cannot do legally. Also, things that they can do system-wide. The communication with the treasurer's office to make sure that billing is correct, to make sure that we're applying prior tax cap values correctly. Those are things that you have to know coming into our office in order for it to continue to run successfully, as well as you have to understand the gaps. So there are gaps. I always say with anything, even with ourselves, there's always room for change and room for growth. So knowing the gaps and where we will need technology, I am ready to fill in those gaps. I've already spoken to a few friends that I have made within the legislature to be able to get funding for certain things, to implement new systems and get new servers so that we can speed up, the internet for our taxpayers. Also adding things like language changes, multi-language applications as well. That's one thing that I really want to do because people need to understand what they're filling out before they're submitting them.
Can you repeat again, please?
Well, just to summarize, the agency itself is a multi-billion-dollar agency in Clark County government with substantial staff and responsibility for hundreds of thousands of records and business accounts. What experience do you have managing an operation of that scale? And how would you ensure that the office has staffing, training, technology, and quality control and leadership to make it more user-friendly to the citizens and taxpayers?
Again, thank you for the question. And I look at it this way. I was a school board trustee of the fifth largest school district. We had a $2.8 billion budget. We were the second largest employer in Nevada. Do I know what's going on? Absolutely. In any government. And it's really not. It should be run by a business person because we'll see more things than somebody in government won't see. And these are the problems with government. We need business people. It's like a bank. Yes, you're going to be large process of monies go through our department, but we got to make sure that every department works with another department. So it actually, you don't have to worry about it. If somebody gets elected, all those procedures should be set in place. So if somebody doesn't get elected to that position, that nobody has to worry about coming in and worrying about, I would say, booby traps or something. So I'm going to look into this and even more so because, again, I won't know everything, but I'm going to be there every day because there's a lot of people that don't show up every day to these positions. But I promise you guys, I will be there.
Okay, Tim Ross for Nevada Veterans Association. Clark County offers several exemptions for seniors, surviving spouses, and veterans, but many who qualify never apply. How will you modernize your outreach efforts beyond just a link on a website to ensure that these vulnerable populations actually are receiving the tax relief they're entitled to? I guess you would go first this time.
Okay. So again, I look at this way, and the reason what I'm running is that I know everybody becomes a senior and a lot of people own their own homes, disabled veterans. And we talk about these programs. One of my stances are no property taxes after 65 on your primary home. If you're a disabled veteran, automatically no property tax. We should have that. If Florida's going to be doing, I've been talking this for about 5 years being in real estate, and you're going to say, where can we do this? I have a plan. We can do this because I've already talked to some of the people up, in the legislature to make sure that we could probably do this. But again, our seniors matter. I never want to see a senior lose their home because of their property tax. I never want to see a disabled veteran that can't pay their property tax lose their home. If we say this, the Star Spangled Banner, when you say land of the free, home of the brave, well, those brave people need to have, guess what? Tax-free homes and property tax.
In relation to our exemptions, I've actually spoken to a lot of our exemption holders and found out what gaps we can fill. So at the VA hospital, where you get your award letters for your disabilities and things like that, I've already spoken to them as far as having a moment where we can set up a table, and as veterans come in and out of the VA hospitals and clinics, we would have someone there. Maybe we definitely wouldn't be able to do it every day, but on a monthly basis, I can have someone at those hospitals making sure that everyone's exemptions are up to date. Also, if they don't have exemptions, we're right there where they can get their award letters, and we can go ahead and get them signed up for those programs. It doesn't, we have county vehicles. We can drive to those areas, and the staff, we can take computers, we can take things that they will need, educate them on the program, get them signed up, and renew them that way. And also, we do renew them online currently, that you can renew your exemption online currently, but the sign up is the issue. We want to make sure we're addressing the sign up. We want to make sure that we're reaching as many as possible. So I would suggest, I would implement that our office do outreach maybe monthly. One day a month, we can go out and get veterans signed up. Even if we have to go to the senior complexes, some of the recreation centers, the senior recreation centers, we can go there. There's avenues for us to get our veterans signed up, as well as our surviving spouse and the blind exemptions. We need to get to them too.
TK Crabb, Veterans in Politics. Thank you both for being here today. It's a Friday, so thanks. How do you balance increasing property values with fairness to taxpayers who feel priced out of their homes? Ms. Washington.
So right now, and I'm so glad you asked that question. I had a meeting with a gentleman yesterday who was feeling that same way. And what I did was I said, well, let me make sure that we're following the market trends in your area, because what I don't want you to feel is that you're being taxed out of your home. So I explained our tax abatement laws to him that have been in place since 2005. I explained to him about the 3% tax cap, made sure that he was signed up for our tax abatement. And then also what I did was I had a property appraiser that was assigned to his area go in and double check to make sure that he was valued properly. He was, but he felt better about his tax dollars and his tax rates. He felt better about his assessed values on his property, because we were able to explain to him that although these values look like they're increasing, and they are, you have a 3% tax cap. So with that 3% tax cap, he was looking at no more than a $13.67 increase next year over this year. So he was comfortable, and he felt a lot better, and he felt good that we took the time to go out and double check.
I appreciate that, because it's almost like a foreign language, when you're learning about
it. Is, and that's one of the things that I also want to implement is a breakdown. So just imagine if you could go to our website and you would be able to put in what your notice of value says on our website, and then it gave you like a little calculation or estimate of what your taxes may be, even though the Department of Taxation drives our tax rate. If we can give you a little bit of an estimate and tell you that it's an estimate, I think you will feel more comfortable with that.
Say it again, please. Can you repeat it again? Thank you. That's okay.
I qualify for the old senior age thing for tax purposes. Okay. How do you balance increasing property values with fairness to taxpayers who feel priced out of their homes?
Well, really quick is we're running into the 21st century, and we've got a thing called AI, and it's amazing. And what you could do is put a lot of facts and figures in there and make sure that all those values are where they're supposed to be. And we need to get into the future right now, because, again, I never want to see anybody pay more than they have to. And I'm going to make sure that, because I'm going to be there with our employers, because they're going to have to ask those questions, and I have to answer to you, the taxpayers. And again, I trust the process, but I don't trust the politics. And we need to make sure that your dollars are spent right, and when we ask for those dollars, that we're taking them, or that we're supposed to, and the values are there. And we can use AI with that also, because there's a lot of great systems out there, as you guys know if you've been watching the news, and we've got to come up to that system. So again, thank you for the question.
Martin Walker, Nevada Veterans Association. I'm going to kind of stick with that same topic about the 3% property tax cap. Based on my understanding, that's a lifetime cap. But there's some systems that mess up if the person refinances or something, just does some minor work to their home. Something happens and it defaults to an 8% rate. And if the person doesn't know that, they end up having a fight with the office to get it lowered back down to 3%. You kind of mention it in a way, but I'm not quite sure AI is like the answer. But how can we help people? Because we have a lot of non-English speaking people who suffer from this, especially our senior citizens, some elderly veterans, maybe those with some disabilities who have an issue with this. How do we help them with either some type of since it's a lifetime, that they don't have to do a recertification in the first place?
So because of the way that the statute is written with the tax abatement law, what happens is, let's say, for instance, your home right now is in your personal name as Martin Walker, but then you decide to put your home into a trust. Your tax cap will fall off. However, we will send you a new form. Our system is automatic. It automatically sends you a new form. And once you fill that out, then you're put back into your 3%. It does not mean that your taxes will go back in that your whatever you've paid right at this time right now. So what you're paying today will stay the same. It will change for the upcoming fiscal year. However, say today's April 25th, right? We're going to send you a new form before July 1. So all you have to do is sign it. You can email it to us. You can submit it online. You can call me directly. However, we're going to get it back in the system. And also another way that we've made changes to this is through statute now, whenever a declaration is filed, there's a place on the declaration to check that this is your primary residence. So now there's no loopholes anymore. But if just so happen your title company misses checking the box to let us know that it's your primary residence, we will send you a form. But every time you record a new document, it's a box now, part of legislation that has that tax abatement in there for you. So we won't miss anything anymore.
And you talk about the language barriers and stuff. We should have that introduced already. That's what, again, bringing in the 21st century. Me as a business person see a lot of that stuff because I'm going to ask those questions that you're asking. And then what we need to do is go to our legislators. We need to change the statute. That means we have to go to our assembly people and our senators. And that's what I do best because I love going in there and talking to them and bringing forth and saying like an attorney does, this is what's happening. We need to change that. And we need to simplify it for our tax-paying, hard-working tax-paying citizens.
Marlon Higby, past commissioner, Lincoln County. Question I have is, so we have a situation where an individual is a veteran, ended up the district attorney. So my question is, the district attorney had already sent him a notice of late taxes for 2 years in a row, working on the third year. How would your office deal with that?
Wouldn't have received it from the district attorney. Did he receive it from the treasurer's office?
Well, he received it from the treasurer's office, and then the district attorney picked it up.
Picked it up
Yes.
for him. Okay, that's better. So when it comes to real property, those delinquencies are handled directly through the treasurer's office. So we, in our office, we send those values down to the treasurer's office, and then the treasurer determines the tax dollars, and they collect the tax dollars. So we, unfortunately, we wouldn't be able to impede with the, to say the, because it sounds like it would have gone to auction.
Well, what happened was he kept telling me he was a veteran, and they didn't believe him. He actually had to go to the courthouse and present his documents before they'd, and even then the DA would, I had to get involved as a county commissioner and tell him, back off.
I think I know the gentleman you're speaking of. And in that instance with the veterans exemption, there was language on the, if it's the same person, it couldn't possibly not be, but there was, so let's say, for instance, when you file your veterans exemption, it has to say that you have an honorable discharge. That from I have a uncle, my grandfather was a veteran, and you cannot go to him and say that you have under honorable conditions and he has honorable conditions. They are not the same. He took great offense to that. So for some people, even if it would say under honorable, or if it didn't have anything at all, or it was a medical condition, that would be the only reason why we would have to take pause. But in that instance, we will call the VA to see if they'll email something over to the office or fax something in, so that way we can get him resolved. That's how we handle it here in Clark County. We go the extra mile to make sure that our veterans are heard.
That's fine what they did.
Yeah,
VA actually sent him
100%. We'll get the letter
from JAG.
and then what happens is we'll get the letter. I'm sorry.
Well, I always say there's always those instances, and being a business person, being in business a long time, we've got to have roundtables periodically with our employees to see how we can strengthen up, our divisions in our government. Because again, they get mundane, they get bogged down, and there's going to be problems, but yet we need solutions. And I always say my solution was when you have a disabled veteran or you have a senior, we need to get rid of that property tax. We need to, that way we don't have to mess around with all the minutia of you got this paperwork, you got that. No, let's make it simpler, simplify stuff instead of making stuff so just, you got to file a paperwork for this, and this. And seniors don't want to mess with that. Veterans don't want to mess with that. And this is why I'm running to make it simplified, and we have to, and we can do that. So again, thank you for the question.
Jeffrey Lustig, Veterans in Politics. One of the things I do in my private practice as an attorney in Clark County is I have the privilege of representing several hundred hangar owners and airplane owners in Clark County that are, many are commercial pilots, some are retired military personnel who flew or were pilots, some weren't. Many of them own hangars, many of them own airplanes. And every single year, I probably get 100 complaints, people asking for legal advice because the office of the assessor did not give a timely notice of personal property tax due on hangars and airplanes. And it just extends beyond that, too. Why does the Clark County Assessor's Office place so many burdens on the taxpayer customer to know what forms to file, what exemptions to request, what tax cap status to verify, and deadlines to track? What would you do to make that office more proactive, user-friendly, and accountable so that its citizens do not lose these important, what are oftentimes benefits, but if there's deadlines, they have to pay extra, and you can't dispute that. I've tried. It's impossible to dispute that. Even though you should be sending out notices, it's not my job to send out my own notice, but you guys do that, and you won't let me appeal, so I end up having to pay hundreds of dollars more. But what are you going to do so that citizens, veterans, don't have this happen repeatedly? And it's a chronic problem, and I've tried to address it numerous times with the sitting assessor. I'd like to know what you would each do about that.
Number one, I'm going to sit down with the employees in the division, in the assessor's office, and see why and what's going on. Because if it's been happening for years and years and years, evidently we have a failure of leadership. And it's like anything else in the military. If you have a failure of leadership, what happens? Things good. Yeah. So anyways, that's one of my biggest attributes is being a business person, is making sure that we're going to go back and talk to the staff and how we can recommend changes and making it a lot easier.
I definitely would have a sit-down conversation with you and would love to meet with you in order to get that issue resolved. Being one of the people who handle personal properties, I can honestly say this is the first time I'm hearing that. That is disheartening to me that your friends and fellow veterans are having that issue. So I would love, if I become the next assessor, to sit down and have a conversation so that we can fix it. It's unexcusable. So, and even in my current role, that is a conversation that I would love to be able to mediate between the personal property manager, if possible, as well as speaking to Brianna, and see what we can do. Even if I don't become assessor, I would still want to be able to be a hand to that population so we can get it resolved. Like I said, this is the first I'm hearing of it, and I handle most of the majority of the personal property corrections and appeals. So that's troubling to me. So I would definitely like to sit, and even before I leave here today, if we can get some information so that way I can look into this for you and we can get it resolved.
And you've heard that issue too, right, Tim?
I've heard a few of those.
Yes.
Okay, Tim Ross, Nevada Veterans Association. There's often a perception that large commercial properties and casinos have more resources to aggressively appeal and lower their valuations than individual homeowners do. How do you ensure that the burden of property taxes is distributed equitably and the largest landholders are paying their fair share based on the current market values, just like the small folks are?
So with the appeal time frames and seasons that go on, residential property owners do file appeals. So I can tell you from being in that office and actually working those appeals, this year we had about 897 people file an appeal. We had 12 people show up. So it's not that they don't have access, it's that they do not show up. So what I want to say to our public is, if we feel that we have a disparage in our property value, show up to those meetings. It's important that you've addressed the issue with us. Allow us an opportunity to fix it. Sometimes we can't reach them. Sometimes they're non-responsive. Majority of the time we're able to resolve issues before it even gets to the Board of Equalization. But a large amount of people do not show up to their scheduled hearings, and that's just fact. If you go into it's all on video. You can watch those videos back. There's a large amount of people who don't show up. So we do want to make sure that we're being available to our constituents. We want to make sure that every taxpayer is heard, but they have to do their part also.
So we hit the big, I would say the big kahunas down on the Strip. Property has gone up, values have gone up. And now the casinos don't own the properties anymore, and we got to pay attention. And the thing of it is, they're bought by REITs, and the casinos, and I don't know what happened, but somebody lost control of this whole thing because the casinos are now set up for failure. And we need to look at a lot of this stuff that on our values of those properties on the Strip, they might not be paying their fair share. And we need to look at that and do an audit on every one of those properties down on the Strip. So again, because if our people in their homes are paying their property taxes, and again, if the casinos are not paying their property taxes at a value that should be maybe a better value or not a better value, we need to take a look at that. Because again, nobody should be, I could say, on an unequal, playing field, because property is property.
Can I just ask a brief follow-up? Sure. Mr. Child, you just said that you would audit casino properties. Wouldn't that be an abuse of discretion as an elected auditor in Clark County? Can you just initiate an audit because you feel like it? Don't you have to have a valid reason? And isn't there a pitfall in just saying, I'm going to audit you because I get elected?
No, not necessarily, because I'm saying audit. Let me clarify that. Audit the department of our appraisals, because we need to make sure the appraisals are done right. Because again, those property values on the Strip have gone up more than any property in the state. So these are the things. I'm not going to demand an audit of the casino stuff. No, we're going to look at the how we're doing the assessment on those properties. Thank you for the clarifying.
Washington, if you could also answer.
So currently we do a reassessment of every parcel in Clark County every year, especially our casinos, especially our resident commercial properties. We we go in and reassess everything every fiscal year. Notice of values have already gone out for the upcoming fiscal year for those casinos as well as our residential properties. Also, right now we're in the process of our personal property discovery, which are the personal property side of the casino, which is their slot machines, the betting, and all of those things. So right now we're doing discovery for those to make sure that everything is still the same. They will then receive their declaration to file their declarations for their values for the personal property side of things in July. With the hotel and casinos, they file their declarations, and we do go in and we reassess them every year like we do everything else. So it's not a matter of them needing an audit per se, because we do reassess yearly. Wow. All 867,000 parcels are reassessed yearly.
I have to say, I'm learning so much. This has been really educational and informative, so thank you both. I mean, thank you. Tax is like an intimidating word anyway. What is the difference between assessed value and market value, and how should taxpayers understand the difference?
So your taxable value is what's closest to market value. Your assessed value is 35% of that market value. Of the taxable value. So that's the difference. So you would take, bless you. You would take your $150,000 and times that by 35%. That's your assessed value. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay.
I understand, but
Okay.
that's what I'm saying. I'm learning.
Absolutely. And that's the biggest thing. And that's one of the reasons I wanted to run for this office is because so many times people say they don't understand and they don't know what we do. I want to make sure that our people understand what we do, especially, like I said, our small business owners. That I think that's so near and dear to me right now because of my father. So I want to make sure everyone understands.
I can't, it's the same, I can't change the question. That's how you value it, absolutely. But when she goes back to, we need to have people understand, we have to bring.
Mike.
I'm sorry, forgive me. But anyways, we have to bring it into the 21st century. We have to let people know that and how to understand what they're paying for and what they're not paying for. Again, why isn't it happening right now? And that's the problem with, I said, we need business people in these positions. And I have no problem. Again, if I don't know something, and if she's still working there, I'm going to go to her. I'm going to go to the team. How can we straighten it out? Sit there, during the hours and go, with the round table, like we're sitting here learning. Because I won't know everything. I won't know, but I'm going to ask questions like I did the Clark County School District. I was out in the schools asking the questions. I don't work for myself. I work for you, the taxpayer. And that's why I look. And I look for even the employees. I work for them. So anyways, thank you for your question.
I think it's your turn to start as far as answering questions. So I'm going to start with you. It's quite for both of you, but you have kind of an inside advantage on this next question. So I've been up to the office a few times, and it's actually the persons that have helped me have been very pleasant, very customer service friendly. From watching things, I can tell that it has to be teamwork, it has to be collaborative efforts, has to, and it's up to the leader to establish the culture within an organization. So, knowing that, give me your understanding, or give me your what qualifies you, I guess, as a leader that sets the tone for an organization to foster that environment of team cohesion, of culture of inclusivity, just collaboration, teamwork, conflict resolution. Give me your thoughts there, please.
You want me? No, absolutely. And it is teamwork. It's about owning a business. I've owned businesses. I've been in real estate for 25 years. I've been on the board, boards and being in the school district. We had to figure out certain things, even when you have raises and talking to and getting along with your cohorts. And a boss has to, guess what? Listen, you got 1 mouth and 2 ears for a reason. And I have no problem listening to our employees and making sure that their needs are met. that they can come to me anytime they want, even when I'm off. Believe me, because I care about what we do in our community, and especially when it comes to our taxes. So again, thank you for the question.
I want to redirect because that's reactive. That's listening. I'm talking about the person at the top establishing the culture, deciding as a leader by their own behavior what's acceptable and unacceptable behavior in the workplace environment. I'm asking how would you lead? It's obviously the same questions for you, but how would you lead by example to set that tone and hold yourself accountable because you have to emulate the expected behavior within the organization?
Well, absolutely. You got to show up to work and making sure you're doing the work. And that's how you're doing example work. Because if I'm going to work and just sitting there, hi, everybody, what's going on? Have a great day, and marching out the door, that's not an example. But it's going there every day to show up to make sure you're making a difference every day and making those decisions that are supposed to be done that are not supposed to be done, if you're following me. Because again, there's tough decisions you have to do in this position. And you can't be afraid of the press. You can't be afraid of the people. And most people are. I am not. And I don't, like I said, I've got to do what's best for the county.
So as for me, because I'm considered part of the rank and file currently, so I believe as a part of part of any strong leader, you have to be approachable, you have to be dependable, and you have to not be reactive, but you have to be responsive, and we have to be solution driven. Right now, I'm a part of what we call in our office is the Labor Management Committee. And a part of the Labor Management Committee is to be able to hear from the rank and file what issues they may have. And I sit across from our managers, and I'm able to address those issues and concerns with the managers currently. Although I'm a supervisor, I'm not the manager. So because of that, one of our assistant directors is also on that committee with me. So we're able to bring those issues to them for our staff. So they trust me. And that's a big thing when you're dealing with offices that have longevity. Majority of our people in our office has been there. Our office has the best record of people retiring from there. So the assessor's office, when you come into our office, majority of the people have been there 20 years or more. We have new people, of course, that have come in, but that's one of the things that they love about our office is because we have been there. So they feel connected to us. They feel drawn to the family-oriented vibe that we have. And I hold myself at a high standard because I feel like the way you show up every day, it should be that same way every day. Just because I'm having a bad day does not mean that I have to reflect that upon you. And I think that's a good character of a leader.
Thank you. So that concludes the interview portion of today's event. I'd like to give you each 1 minute for a closing remark. Since you went first last one, I'll have you go first this time.
So I am, again, Tamicka Washington for Clark County Assessor. I feel that I'm the strongest candidate for our office because I have been there. I've done the work. I know what our office needs and what our office does not need. I know what would grow our office and what would not. I'm strong in the knowledge. Institutional knowledge is necessary to run this office. So therefore, I am the strongest candidate. So I would appreciate the support of this committee as well as the taxpayers of Clark County.
Again, I want to appreciate Veterans in Politics for having this forum. Thank you for your service. And again, my name is Kevin Child. I believe I'm a good candidate for this because I am one of these solution-oriented people. Being on the school board, we had to do a lot of different things. The decisions of what we're doing with that, I always go back to that $2.8 billion budget, teachers, staff, principals, the kids in school. There's a lot of moving parts, and I'm sure there's going to be a lot more. I don't know everything, but bottom line, I will learn a lot because, again, that's my forte, is to find a solution instead of a problem. So, again, I appreciate you guys having this forum, and I look forward to answering any other questions if you guys have them.
All right. Well, that concludes our event for today. Once again, I'd like to thank our sponsors. Judge Mary Perry, Clark County District Court, Family Division, Department P, Christine Brewer, Clark County District Family Court Division, Department S, Veterans in Politics International, and Nevada Veterans Association, and our additional sponsoring partners for the leadership, support, and dedication to veterans and the integrity of our non-judicial process. Thanks.
Join us every Wednesday night at 6 p.m. Pacific Time, live stream on Facebook.